To use or not to use? That's the $750,000 question. The Power of Veto in Big Brother offers a very unique and disruptive power that has the potential to shake up any given round. At the start of a Big Brother week, the HOH must nominate 2 house guests for eviction. However, whichever player wins the veto can choose to use it and save one of the 2 nominated house guests, which in turn forces the HOH to name another nominee. Whether it's to save an ally, or to enact a backdoor plan, or just to spite the HOH, using the veto can be a big power move that pushes your game forward and helps your position in the house. But it's not always that simple. Using the veto has the potential to upset the HOH as well as other players in the house, which makes using it a risk. Sometimes it pays off, but sometimes it doesn't, and that's what we're here to talk about today. Throughout Big Brother history, there have been many instances of a player using the power of veto in a way that absolutely ruins their game when they otherwise would have been totally fine by not using it. How game-ending are we talking though? Let's find out. These are the 5 worst veto uses in Big Brother history.
Well, guess what? I'm not gonna let you weasel out of the bed you made. If you don't want me to use this veto, I'm 100% going to use it.
Before we get into the top 5, I have 2 unconventional cases to mention, and that's when Dick used the veto on Danielle in Big Brother 8, and when Brendan used the veto on Rachel in Big Brother 13. In both of these instances, Dick and Brendan were on the block and won the veto, but they chose to use it on their loved one instead of themselves. I'm not including these on the actual list because even though they weren't great game moves, well, that's exactly it actually. They weren't game moves. They were moves to save their loved ones over themselves, and I guarantee that neither Brendan nor Dick regrets their decision. So, even though leaving yourself on the block usually isn't a good move, the outside circumstances involved in these 2 is more than enough for me to not actually include them on the list, but I wanted to give them a small mention anyways.
What I have decided to do is not to use the veto on myself, but use it on my daughter Danielle. If she likes it or not, she's coming off the block today.
I've decided to use the power of veto on my fiancée, Rachel.
Now, starting out the actual top 5, we have to go way back. In fact, this was only the 2nd time that the veto was ever used, and that was when Nathan used the veto on Alison in week 3 of Big Brother 4. It was at the final 10, and the house was split 7-3 after their previous eviction, with Justin, G, and Robert, aka the Three Stooges, on the outs. Dana won the HOH, and since she was a part of the 7-person majority, it should have been an easy week to get one of the Three Stooges out. However, there was so little trust between this alliance of 7 that a blow of the wind would have been enough to knock this alliance over, and the biggest wild card of them all was Dana. Justin told Dana that her alliance was scheming and plotting against her behind her back, and due to the fact that there was already a lot of mistrust in that alliance, Dana flipped to the Three Stooges side and completely turned on her alliance of 7 by nominating Alison and Jack for eviction, with Alison as the primary target. Nathan and Alison were becoming close, and they secretly hatched a plan that if Nathan won the veto, he'd use it to save Alison, and then they'd target Justin and Dana the following week. As luck would have it, Nathan actually did end up winning the veto, and even though he had a rocky night with Alison following this, he stuck to his word and he used the veto to save her, which was a shock to some, and it completely pissed off Dana. Dana nominated David as the replacement nominee, and David was evicted by the end of the week. Okay, so far this doesn't seem like that awful of a veto play, but I can assure you that there's more than meets the eye. For starters, by saving Alison, Nathan not only went against the wishes of some of his alliance members, but he completely severed his relationship with Dana, and he lost David in the process. Nathan was always going to lose a number this week, but by using the veto on Alison, he basically declared that it's him and Alison versus the world. This was only going to be worth it if Alison won the next HOH, and what do you know, she did win the next HOH. But Alison was never as ride or die with Nathan as he had hoped. She didn't target Justin and instead went for Dana. And then when Justin won HOH the following week, Nathan was his target and he was unanimously evicted, meaning that even Alison voted against him. Had he not used the veto, he would have had a strong alliance of 4 with the possibility of roping Dana back in, but instead, he did use it, and his game spiraled from there until he was evicted.
You know, guys, it's been a long week. A lot of things have happened. There's been a sense of betrayal in the house. You know, Dana, I think that Allie deserves a second chance in this house, and I exercise to use my veto on Allie.
He's a freaking puppet. Nathan can't make up his mind. He thinks Allison's gonna save him in this game. He thinks Allison's gonna take him places.
I think Allie just totally brainwashed him. I don't think for a second that she'll hesitate to turn on him.
I can't believe you, Nathan. Seriously, I'm at a loss for words. David, you could thank Nathan for it, because I have to put you on the block. I'll do something that he will never have the nerve to do.
Nathan really pissed me off today. I won't speak another word to him for as long as we're both in this house together.
You know what? I really don't know where Nathan's head is at this point. I think, to splinter an already splintered group was a big mistake.
I had a target on my front and my back, so now I think I got a target all on my whole body. It's a big risk, but I had to do it. I went with my gut feeling. That's what I always do.
At the number 4 spot, we have an interesting case, and that's when Kyland used the veto to save Xavier at the final 5 double eviction during Big Brother 23. To set the scene, Azza was the HOH and nominated Xavier next to Hannah. Kyland narrowly beat out Xavier in the veto, but Kyland wanted to go to the end with him, so he used the veto on X. This forced Alyssa to nominate Derek F in his place, and Hannah was then evicted in a 2-0 vote just moments later. In terms of a game move, this was completely unnecessary. Xavier was simply a pawn to get Hannah out, and he was not going to be evicted if he remained on the block. So, not only was this veto use pointless, but it actually hurt his game as well. Azza was distraught that she was put in a position where she was forced to nominate her closest friend Derek F, and Derek F was livid because he didn't expect it and was now sitting on the block. By using the veto, it not only exposed Kyland's cards of clearly being ride or die with Xavier, but it also displayed that he didn't trust Azza and Derek F enough to go through with the plan of Xavier being a pawn. Kyland showed all of his cards and gained absolutely nothing from it. Maybe it would have been worth it if he earned the complete trust of Xavier with it, but he didn't. Xavier won both HOH and veto the following week, and he sent Kyland home. So this move truly did nothing good for his game. For what it's worth, had Kyland not used the veto, things probably don't change that much, and he still likely gets evicted the next week, and the only good move that he could have made at that point was using the veto on Hannah to get Xavier out, but that was clearly never happening. Overall, this was an unnecessary veto use that upset Azza and Derek F, and it didn't even win Xavier over, which is why I have it at the number 4 spot.
Like Azza, I have been wanting to honor the deals and promises I make, and right now I do have one to take Xavier off, so I'm going to use it on you as I promised. Hopefully that means something for future times.
When the veto gets used, I am livid because this was not a part of my plan. It really makes me upset because you're playing with my game and I don't play with y'all's game.
My stomach does not sit right with this move. I would never think that Kyland would use a veto to put Big D up in somebody's place. I don't feel good. I have, for the most part, honored people's HOHs. If Kyland wanted to use a veto on Xavier, that is something that he could have told me, but he didn't. I feel like I've been played.
We're sitting, right?
Yeah.
I do have a final 2 with Xavier, and that is the one I'm most committed to.
I voted out Hannah to make Kyland feel like I'm loyal to him during the double eviction, but my loyalty is primarily to Big D.
At the number 3 spot, I have a veto use that we are all too familiar with, and that's when Danielle used the veto to save Alyssa and Indy in week 4 of Big Brother 24. The Festy Bestie twist was in play at this time, meaning that all the house guests were put into pairs and could only be nominated and or vetoed off the block together, which is critical in this veto use. Monty had won the week 4 HOH and nominated Indy and Alyssa with an initial plan to backdoor one of Danielle or Nicole. However, as the week progressed, Monty decided against that plan and figured it was probably best if Indy and Alyssa remained on the block. This new idea seemed almost solidified once Danielle won the veto, but that's when things got a little shaky. You see, Danielle had been trying to get Taylor out for weeks at this point, and this week was no different. The dilemma here is that Taylor was Festy Besties with Nicole. That normally wouldn't be an issue. However, Nicole was Danielle's #1 ally, which meant that he would have to put her in harm's way in order to get Taylor out. Monty had originally told Danielle and Nicole a fake plan in the beginning of the week that his goal was to get out Taylor, but now that Monty wanted the nominees to stay the same, he attempted to dissuade Danielle from using the veto by telling them he was worried Nicole didn't have the numbers to stay if she was nominated alongside Taylor. In a way, Monty wasn't lying to them, but Danielle and Nicole didn't take it that way. In their minds, the only reason that Monty would be saying this is if he was worried he didn't have the numbers to keep Taylor and that Nicole was actually going to be safe. So, thinking that Monty was trying to play them, Danielle used the veto on Indy and Alyssa, and Taylor and Nicole were nominated in their place. From here, of course, it became clear that Monty was in fact telling them the truth and that Nicole did not have the numbers to stay. And by the end of the week, Nicole was evicted in a vote of 9-1. This is one of the most egregious veto uses because Danielle knew Nicole was going on the block, and he and Nicole had just been blindsided the prior week when Amira was evicted, so they really had no reason to think that they had the numbers to keep Nicole in the game. Had Danielle not used the veto, he and Nicole both survived the week, and at the very least, one of them makes it to jury. But because Danielle was too fixated on getting rid of Taylor, he used the veto, and his best friend was sent home instead.
So I need to convince Danielle and Nicole that it's in their best interest to decide to not use the power of veto this week.
I don't want my week to be a surprise week. Now, if I put you and Taylor on the block, now I'm feeling less confident about where the votes lie. I just don't want to look like a fool putting up you and Taylor, and then Taylor, yet again, is still here.
Blah, blah, blah. Like, shut up, Monty. I have the numbers to stay. Taylor will be going home. God, he's such a horrible liar. I can't. It's so funny.
It sounded like Monty's fully aware that he doesn't have the votes to get rid of Nicole this week. Well, guess what? I'm not gonna let you weasel out of the bed you made. If you don't want me to use this veto, I'm 100% going to use it.
I have to play dumb with Daniel. He's about to help me take down my showmance Alyssa. And unfortunately for him, he's about to make one of the dumbest moves in Big Brother history and help us backdoor his best friend Nicole.
We have decided to use the power of veto on Indy and Alyssa.
Nicole and Taylor.
I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever this excited to be on the block, but Monty, I saw what you were doing, but I think you're gonna be disappointed come eviction night. Ugh, killing it. We're killing it today. So amazing.
Nicole, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
At the number 2 spot, we have one of the most chaotic veto uses of all time, and that's when Devin used the veto on Brittany in week 2 of Big Brother 16. Now, there is a whole lot to unpack here. Devin was the head of the Bomb Squad Alliance, but he was acting madly chaotic to the point that his alliance members were very concerned that he'd be a liability. However, Devin won the week 2 HOH, so the Bomb Squad had to sit quiet and suck it up for a week while he was in power. Devin nominated Brittany and Paula for eviction, with Brittany being his primary target. Devin was so set on having Brittany leave that he even made a deal with Paula that if she threw the battle of the block, he'd use the veto on her if he won it. Everything was set in place for Brittany to go home, except for the fact that Devin's alliance secretly hated this plan. The members of the Bomb Squad Alliance, other than Devin, had been discussing how they all wanted Paula gone, not Brittany. And in an alliance meeting with Devin, Zach spoke up and voiced that he liked Brittany more and he wanted her to stay. Devin was taken aback by this, almost seeming like he couldn't comprehend Zach's logic, and this caused a rift between them. Right after this meeting, Devin won the veto, and then things got really crazy. Devin had a talk with Brittany where they bonded over being parents, and it completely changed Devin's outlook on things. Devin, on a whim, removed his sights from Brittany and placed them on Zach. Zach tried once more to smooth things over with Devin, but it really just made things worse for him, and when it was time for the veto meeting, everything exploded. Devin went back on his word with Paula and didn't use the veto on her, and he instead used the veto on Brittany, who was his main target the entire week and the main reason that there was so much turmoil within his own alliance. But we're not done yet, because Devin then takes a massive shot and throws Zach up on the block in Brittany's place, with the intention being that Zach gets evicted. Now, I'm not really sure what Devin was thinking though, because he had like negative friends in the house at this point, and he absolutely did not have the support to rally enough numbers against Zach, leading to Zach staying in a 10-2 vote and Paula leaving the house anyways. Devin did pretty much everything he could to ruin his game that week, and it's funny because he literally had all the power, but he chose to use it in the worst way possible. Devin got into a fight with his alliance because they wanted to keep Brittany over Paula, and then in response, Devin shot himself in the foot and then did exactly that by keeping Brittany and sending Paula home. It just doesn't make sense, and it's hilarious. Overall, this veto play was awful in so many regards. It showed that Devin's word meant nothing, as he didn't use the veto on Paula as he promised. He showed how wishy-washy of a player he could be after his entire game plan switched on a dime to save Brittany, and he showed how volatile of an alliance member he was by trying to backdoor a member of his own alliance that he himself put together. This all culminated in his eviction the following week, and it very well could be at the #1 spot. However, I didn't put it there because Devin wasn't making it very far regardless of if he used the veto or not. Using it just accelerated his own demise.
So this is the deal. I'm going to try and make it as quick and short as possible. So if it's Pow and Brittany, who do you want to go?
Pow is by far the weakest player I've ever seen on Big Brother in my life.
Right.
And, Pow, I have nothing personal against her, but I like Brittany more, so I want Brittany to stay.
What are you talking about?
Zach's just told me everything that I need to know. I know who the weak link in this alliance is, and right now my trust is broken. I'm really stuck with a catch-22 here. I promised to use the veto on Paula, and I promised to use it on Brittany. One of them's gonna be mad at me. And if I do use it and I put Zach up, well, I'm going against my own alliance, and it's not gonna be pretty.
I refuse to let a single mother of 3 sit on the block. But today, I'm going to use the power of veto on you, Brittany. So Zach, gotta put you up on the block, brother. You are the replacement nominee.
Devin, your personality changes with the blow of the wind. I'm going after you. Everyone in this house should be going after you too.
Yep, it's cool with me.
I came into the house as the biggest target, and you know what? Ultimately, at some point in time, I will leave the house as the biggest target.
With 11 votes to evict, Devin, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
And now, at the #1 spot, we have one of the most famous moments in all of Big Brother history, and that's when Danielle used the veto on Dan at the Final Four of Big Brother 14. Danielle had won both the HOH and veto at the Final Four, meaning that she had all of the power for the week. She was in a showmance with Shane, and Dan was not only her coach, but her closest ally. So by winning the HOH and veto, Danielle ensured that she could keep both of her boys safe and send Ian packing. Danielle had nominated Ian and Dan, and with Shane promising to evict Ian, it looked like it was going to be a perfect week for her. However, this is where everything starts to go downhill for her. Dan had a final 2 deal with Ian and a final 2 deal with Danielle, meaning that the only person standing in his way from the end of the game was Shane. But with Danielle winning all the power, he had no way of getting him out. Well, almost no way. Dan went to Danielle and feigned concern that Shane was going to vote him out. He claimed that anytime he was on the block come eviction night, he was going to go home. So he proposed an idea to Danielle. She uses the veto to save him, and in turn, Dan will vote out Ian and take Shane to the final 3. Danielle fully bought into this, and Shane did too, even giving her his blessing to put him on the block next to Ian. So, come the veto ceremony, Danielle goes through with Dan's plan and removes him from the block. But that's where the plan goes awry. After being saved with the veto, Dan stands up, looks at the 2 nominees, and instantly goes back on his word and evicts Shane. It was jaw-dropping. It was earth-shattering. But most importantly of all, it was game-ending for Danielle. Had Danielle not used the veto, she was going to be in a golden position. Ian would have been evicted, meaning that Danielle would be in the final 3 in a spot where both Shane and Dan would bring her to the end. But she instead trusted Dan, used the veto on him, and paid the price when her boyfriend walked out the door just minutes later. Danielle went from a guaranteed $50,000 paycheck with the potential at $500K to a 3rd place $0 finish with this one veto move. So for me, it's the worst veto use in Big Brother history.
Oh my gosh, I just pulled this off. I am so excited. I get to keep my boys safe. Dan, Shane, and I are going to the final 3, and I hold all the power once again.
Anytime I'm sitting on the block after the veto, I'm going home.
If I pull you down, are you saving Shane?
Yeah.
You swear?
Yeah, do whatever you want.
Right now, I'm telling Danielle exactly what she wants to hear because I want her to use a veto on me. But will I send Shane packing? In a heartbeat.
If I took Dan off
Dan off what?
the block,
Yep.
he's going to save you no matter what because he's so sick of you and he can't see straight. You're not going anywhere. I would never, ever, 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 I swear on my life, put you up if I thought I was losing you.
I mean, whatever you need to do, if you need to take him off and put me up, as long as he guarantees me.
I got you. How does it feel to be in the final 3, Shane? How does it feel?
Shut
You're welcome. All right,
I've decided to use the power of veto to save you, Dan.
Danielle, look in your hands and look up. Real quick, Shane, you're a heck of a competitor. Ian, you're an equal competitor. Both of you guys got a great shot to win this game. There's something big in this house. You're going to have one shot to break up, and this is that shot. So, Shane, I'm sorry I have to evict you. What?
And there we go. The weird thing about Big Brother is that oftentimes bad gameplay is so much more entertaining than good gameplay, and I think these are 5 prime examples of that. Watching someone shoot themselves in the foot when trying to make a big move is such enticing TV, and I really hope that we can get a truly awful veto play this season. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, consider subscribing. I of course need to give that extra special shout out to all of my YouTube members who would only ever use the veto in the most optimal way. And, as always, here's a clip for you on your way out.
Congratulations, Dana. You are the new head of household.
There's a new bitch in town.
Did I mention that the psycho crazy bitch has head of household?
Everybody should be worried in this house that the psycho bitch is going to be putting them up for nomination.
The walls came a-tumbling down today. I think Dana made the biggest mistake of her life. She went like this. $500,000?